going, everyone? In this video, I'll be talking about some key SAT reading and writing tips for the SAT October exam that's literally in a week and like a half. So SAT October is coming up and everyone struggles with SAT reading the most, right? Because who likes to read? No one likes to read. Everyone likes to do math, and math is nice, clear cut, very simple. But reading, things can get really hard really quickly, and a lot of students end up running out of time. And on the writing section, some students end up getting like a 30 out of 44, 31 out of 44. That was actually the first score I got on my practice SAT. So 31 out of 44 for the SAT writing section. So in this video, I'm gonna make sure that you guys ace both the SAT reading and the SAT writing section. First, start talking about the SAT reading section, so like the comprehension section, which is like what, 52 questions. So the first thing we're gonna talk about, the first tip, is to annotate. Guys, annotation is probably the best thing you can ever do for any passage, like ever, not just on SAT reading, but any reading/writing exam. You see, when you annotate, you are forcing your brain to, one, pay attention to what you're reading, and two, you're able to simplify the idea expressed in the passage. So let's say there is like a big paragraph, and you don't want to read this paragraph multiple times, right? It's a paragraph. Who wants to read multiple times? You want to minimize the amount of reading you're doing. So by reading the paragraph once and maybe writing like a 1 to 2 sentence summary on the side of it, then you basically trim down the entire paragraph into just 1 or 2 sentences that you understand because you wrote those sentences. So now you fully understand what that paragraph is about. You got the main idea about it. You got any of the important connections about it. So now you can move on, and now your brain understands completely of what it just read, right? Because a lot of times what happens is you read a paragraph or 2, or 3, or 4, or maybe the entire passage, and you're like, wait, what did I just read? And that sucks, right? Because then you have to go back, reread everything, skim through, rush. That's how you end up getting questions wrong, and you lose time on the reading section. And time is probably one of the biggest issues as it is. So you don't want to keep wasting time by doing not paying attention. So please make sure to annotate. Now the second tip I can give you guys is to read questions first. You see, by reading questions first, what you're enabling yourself to do is the question that you're looking for, or the answers that you're looking for the question that you just read, you're gonna be looking for them as you read the passage. So like I said, your brain will be forced to pay attention because you're like, is this the answer? Is this the answer? Is this the answer? Where can I find this answer? So by trying to find those answers, like I said, your brain will be attentive. Your brain's not gonna wander off. You're not gonna be that person who ends up reading the entire passage and is like, yo, what did I just read? Because that's just not gonna happen to you if you pay attention very closely. That is why, guys, I want you guys to read the questions first. And plus, this way, you're also going to be able to minimize the rereads, because let's say one of the questions is, what's the main idea of the passage, right? Or what's the main idea of the second half of the passage? Now, if you have that question in mind, when you start the second half of the passage, you can make a mental note. All right, let me find the main idea of like the next 3 paragraphs, which makes up the second half of the passage. And then once you read those next 3 paragraphs, you can just answer right there and then what the main idea was. You don't have to, go back and reread when you get to the question, because you already read the question first, so you already know what you're looking for. And a lot of times, what I personally like to do is I like to answer as I go. I know this is like not the best thing to do. A lot of people rather read the entire passage first, then go, attack the questions. But personally, I found the most time effective and most accurate thing for me, and you guys can try this when you do your practice exam to see if it works for you. That is to read the questions first and then answer the questions as I go for the ones that I keep in mind. Because like I said, guys, it's like 10 or 11 questions per passage. I don't expect you to remember everything, right? You're not gonna remember all those questions, but remember like 2 or 3 big ones. Underline all the vocabulary ones because you can answer them as you go as well. And the 2 or 3 big ones you can answer when you find the answer for those questions, right? And the rest of the questions, okay, you might have to go reread a little bit, but that's fine because you basically just save yourself a lot of time already. So you can use that additional time to, answer the other questions. And usually the other questions aren't as hard as long as you're memorizing the big questions, right? Now, the third tip, and this tip is more of like a self-explanatory tip, but I still think it's very important to make note of. Just do not mess up on vocabulary questions. Guys, vocabulary questions are meant to be the easiest questions, right? They're the questions you can't miss any points on, because as it is, you're probably not gonna get a perfect score when it comes to the 52 questions. I mean, I didn't, and I know a lot of people haven't, but if you're one of those people who can, you're probably a genius. But more importantly, you don't want to mess up on the easy questions, because the hard questions are hard as they are. So the easy questions, like the vocabulary questions, you can get like all of them correct almost every single time you take the SAT, because there's a simple way to attack those questions. And that is to, one, sub in each of those choices, see which one makes sense, right? Understand that usually the ordinary meaning is not the answer. So just by those like 2 points, you can probably eliminate 3 of the 4 choices. So you're left with 1. Then you can just answer that. And a lot of the times vocabulary questions aren't too complicated questions, right? They're like usually like words that you've seen before, you've heard before. Make sure when you answer those questions, you plug in, and as you plug in the words, for the word that's given, you think about like, hey, have I heard this word before used in this context? If so, this is probably the answer. That should be your thinking, and most of the times that will get you to the right answer so you can move on pretty quickly. Now my last tip, that is to use Khan Academy for SAT reading prep. You see, Khan Academy is probably one of the best things you can use when it comes to SAT reading because it makes everything nice and simple. You see, it has a bunch of passages, bunch of writing questions, bunch of history questions, bunch of like formative questions, everything you need to do well on the reading SAT, right? The Khan Academy for SAT reading has always been top tier. Honestly, that's all I ever used to study for the SAT reading, and I suck at it. I see like a 610, right? That was like my lowest score I've ever gotten in SAT reading on the practice test. But then I was able to go from a 610 to a 740 on the actual exam, literally all because of Khan Academy, right? I would do the writing questions, like 5 of them a day. I would do like 2 passages a day, and then I'll obviously take practice tests like once every week, and that was enough to get me raise my score like 130 points. I'm telling you, if you guys follow the same route, you guys will benefit nearly the same, if not even more. And now let's jump into the SAT writing. So the first things first, guys, if you want to be successful in this section, you gotta know your grammar rules, okay? You gotta know what an em dash is. You gotta know when to use a colon. You gotta know that semicolon joins 2 independent clauses. You have to know these basic grammar rules because it's the SAT writing section, right? They're basically quizzing you on how well you can write or how well can you spot, valid sentences. And this will actually help you a lot when it comes to your college essays. Because in college essays, they want to see that variety, they want to see that versatility in your writing. And if you're using the same punctuation, no flair, no pizzazz, no semicolons, no colons, no like advanced punctuation, you're just not going to get to the college that you want to. You're probably going to fail, right? So that's why if you're studying well for the SAT writing section, not only are you guaranteeing yourself a high SAT writing score, but you're also setting yourself up for college success because your essays will be top notch and you're probably get to every college that you want to if you know how to write. And you can learn that by using SAT writing prep, by learning the grammar rules and incorporating that into your own writing skills. Now the next tip is to still annotate. I know a lot of people think since it's the SAT writing section, you no longer have to annotate. That's actually far from the truth because a lot of the questions are still context-based. They might ask you, hey, reorder the sentences so this makes sense, reorder the paragraphs so this makes sense. What does the author mean when he's trying to say this? Those questions are still there, just like in different wording. And if you're able to understand the passage, that's gonna help you a lot. Because at least 2 or 1 question for each of the passages for the SAT writing section is about the passage in itself. It's about you understanding the passage and being able to draw connections. So the easiest way to do that is if you annotate. Because if you annotate, drawing connections is like super easy. It's very simple and everything is straightforward. And now my last tip, and that is to be efficient. Guys, there you have to answer 44 questions in 35 minutes. So you obviously have less than a minute for each question. And now you guys might be like, you're right, so I'm pressed for time, this is like really hard. Well, a lot of the questions you probably only take 10 or 15 seconds on. If you're only taking 10 or 15 seconds on like a question, then you're gonna have enough time. So make sure you're not pressed for time on the SAT writing section. The best way to test this out is by continuously taking the practice exams and the SAT writing exams over and over. And Khan Academy has a lot of passages that you can use for each of the SAT writing parts, like the argumentative, the informative, all of that. So make sure you're answering those on time, because those are timed on Khan Academy, or you can time yourself at least. And if you're able to answer all the questions on time, then you'll see that you will have SAT writing success. Because 1, answer the question in a timely manner, and 2, make sure they're right. Make sure you analyze your mistakes, because on the SAT writing section, you can only make so many mistakes. So a lot of the problems are the same. The grammar doesn't change, right? You don't change English grammar from passage to passage. It's the same thing. So you can only get so many questions wrong and make only so many mistakes. So if you're able to go over each of the mistakes and make sure you don't make the same mistakes over and over and again, just like the SAT math section, then you're gonna probably get a high SAT writing score. And you need that SAT writing score to be high, because if you're not getting at least a 41 out of 44, you're not gonna have any cushion for the SAT reading exam. And that's usually the part that a lot of students struggle on. So make sure you're good with the SAT writing so that we have at least some cushion for your overall reading score, and you can get at least 740 or 700. I feel like if you get a 42 out of 44 at least on the SAT writing section, and you get maybe 10 questions wrong in reading, you still end up with the 700 plus. So be sure to do that. These are my tips for the SAT reading and writing parts of the SAT reading comprehension overall exam. So make sure you guys follow these tips and let me know how it goes. Comment down below what your SAT is. Thank you all for watching. Peace.